Hey there, thanks for tuning in to another episode of The Spiritual Scientist. I'm Victor. Thanks for checking me out. So, today I'm going to talk to you still about this Powerball Mega Millions switcheroo. So, I think it's very interesting because I drilled down on it a little bit more, and what I think happened is we had a reset. So, when we had the solar flare, we just had one. So I went online this morning, I checked about it, and I wanted to do some research a little more before I said anything. So one article said every 17 years an X flare may occur. Now, I don't remember anything about X flares before a few years ago. So we just had one. When was the last time I talked about it? About a year and a half ago? Was it already? Wow, time flies, right? So we had that X flare. Now we just had another one. So what happened? So I said that the Powerball was 1.1 million, and then it switched, and then was Mega. So I started getting on here and complaining about it, right? And I know it was. Now, what I do, because I notice these changes and I want to prove to myself that I'm not crazy, and I felt that if I'm in some type of simulation or something like that, that I think jokes can be overlooked. So I made these memes. I make memes and I make them funny, but what I do is I usually hide information about things that I notice, so it's all time stamped and dated. So that way I go back and say, yeah, I have 3 memes about the Powerball being $1.1 billion, and then all of a sudden it's Mega Millions. So I know I'm not crazy, and I know that there was some kind of switcheroo. So what happened? So I noticed as well that the time seemed to be shifting a little bit about the story about the planes being downed. So I noticed it was in a few days before. Then it was, so what's going on with the planes? How'd they have this mysterious computer glitch? So here's the thing. What I think happened in a nutshell is that the solar flare happened and all these planes were up in the air, right? So you got I looked it up, about 500,000 people up in the air over North America, and I think that's where the solar flare basically was hitting at that time. So now you have an X solar flare. Now you have 500,000. Now, what would happen? One of the things I don't think would happen is all the planes would fall out of the sky. I don't think that would happen. It could have happened where you have imagine, one plane crash, and that's a big tragedy. Imagine all the planes in the sky just falling down. That'd be crazy. But I don't think that would happen. What I do for sure think would happen is that you would have 12 times the solar radiation than you get in an X-ray at once in like a minute or less. So what would happen for sure is that you would have 500,000 people up in the air getting radiated and basically getting cancer, which is horrible. So you would have all those families affected. You would have everybody, they say especially at the northern caps. And then I read an article that says that, well, when they know that there's going to be a X solar flare, they advise for planes not to fly, especially at the polar regions. Well, they don't know when the next flare is going to happen, so that article is just so weird. But I digress. So what I believe happened is that an X solar flare happened, and God went and pushed the switcheroo button and reset it. So now the time got switched. So all the computers failed at once in North America, and then all the planes were grounded when the solar flare happened, you see. But to prevent that miracle from being blatant, the times were changed. So then the time switched, and now that just happened to happen and nobody got hurt. So what I'm saying is that the order of events was that the planes were all up in the sky, a solar event occurred, and that was it. And then everybody got hurt, planes crashing, maybe, but more likely, like I said, radiation and cancer. So in 5 years' time, you have 500,000 people plus having, cancer, and dying, which would be horrible. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And then everybody's saying, God, please help me. Why did this happen? Why is this this tragedy? How could my, relative, how could we die? All these prayers happening. So it happened that God went and switched it, and now we have there was a strange, mysterious computer glitch which grounded all the planes just around the time when an X-solar flare happened, but it wasn't exactly the same time. But strangely enough, no one was affected by the X-solar flare. So when you see miracles happen, and you see them, often, you kind of get the feeling for it. And what I do is I take these memes and I embed information so my mind doesn't get erased. I know what's going on. I just I want to have a memory of these things. I want to see these kind of things happen. And I just want to know what's going on. So I embed information into my memes, and they get widely disseminated sometimes. And that way, if my memory is going to be altered or changed, it won't be, because I feel like I have that disseminated in enough other hard drives and other places where it's super difficult for me to have these things switched around and changed. So that's what I do as a preventative measure, to have the memory of what's really going on, because it just drives me crazy if I'm not knowing everything what's going on. Meanwhile, I post videos and people say I'm crazy, which is fine. I don't care. But when I post these videos, and I get somebody saying something, it sometimes jogs something, and I say, oh yeah, that's why this happens. So, and I'm not widely distributed. I race these over time, so I don't think it's going to really matter in the long run. What I think is important is for people to, do these things to prevent things from happening, not just rely on God and be lazy. So I don't think it's, a good thing in general to talk about all the miracles I see, because it's better for people to stay in that state where they just, try to have faith. But it was just really bothering me about seeing the Powerball, and then it was the Mega, and I couldn't understand why one switched the other. I was actually conjecturing if there was some kind of time robbery. I don't think that was it. I think we had some kind of reset, and with the X-solar flare, like I said, to prevent all these planes being affected, all the people getting radiation. So that ends up being the answer. to the question of what is going on with that. I think that it switches if this is like a timeline, it switches it, and there's a lot of ramifications around it, but you have to, concede to the higher power that this is probably worth it. So, I'll throw away the $12 I got on my, spent on that Mega Millions ticket if it prevented 500,000 people getting cancer in a few years' time. That's fine. So I'm okay with it. I just don't. I like to know what's going on. I try to stay, plugged into everything and notice everything. And I just want people to know I'm not crazy. So anyway, that's it. But we have to really, praise God and thank Him for these miracles when they occur. And I say Him, but you could refer to God anyway. You feel right about it. But what I'm saying is that you gotta just thank God for this, because a lot of people would have died otherwise. Thanks so much for tuning in. Like, subscribe, share. Have a great day. Bye-bye.